Welcome to the Digital Pathfinders podcast, where we guide professionals through career transitions, content creation, and building new income streams online. I'm your co-host, Danny, joined by my co-host, Antonio. Antonio, how's it going?
Danny, great to be back. Episode 6, if you can believe it. It's amazing how time flies, but we've been dedicated and consistent with creating these episodes. And so today we're going to be speaking about ways in which individuals, regardless of age, can make money online. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure you have marketable skills. And so how do you go about getting marketable skills that's going to allow you to make online income? Well, you have to learn. And one of those recent examples that we can share with you is this notion of script writing. Basically, what you're going to say on camera for video content most often has some kind of level of organization, whether it's a loose script or an outline, etc. And Danny recently participated in a script writing challenge hosted by Nas Company on their Nas.io platform. So Danny, if you can take it away for us and fill our audience in on what this challenge was all about, what your experience was like, I think people can get a lot of value from your personal experience.
Yeah. And I think you hit it right on the button. When you're doing this type of content creation, and a lot of the content creation that's intentional, you need to have at least a general direction to know where you're going, right? You and I spent maybe 5-10 minutes before we hit the record button to figure out the structure of this podcast, right? With these challenges that we've been doing, they've been great. I think that the reason that I've been able to progress so fast in this year, since I started doing this content creation, is because, Nas puts together great challenges where you learn a bunch of information in a really, really short amount of time. This challenge that I just finished, is the shortest one that I've done so far. It was a 10-day challenge. And really what it does is it sits you down and it hits the warp speed button and just kind of feeds you to the sharks. And you have to figure out how to put these scripts together, what makes an impactful title, an engaging hook, what will keep people watching 1 minute video, 2 minute, 3 minute video, and really breaks down line by line what you need in order to do that. I think that now that I've gone through that challenge, I think that my script writing is going to be much, much more effective. And really, it gets me excited to be in a cohort, in a group of people that are like-minded and that are really pushing each other to be better content creators.
I was going to jump in here and say, Danny, that I think it's important that we explain to the audience more specifically. So when people are scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever their favorite social media platform is, and you see this talking head yelling at you, talking at you, whatever, it's not typically just speaking off the top of the dome. In many instances, they give a very natural perspective on I'm going to talk about X topic today. But they've certainly given some thought prior to hitting that record button. I think that's really what we're talking about here is just sort of pulling back the cloak of what it means to make content creation, what it means to make content, what it means to become a content creator. So Danny, maybe you can share a bit more specifics on what you looked at exactly. It was a 10-day challenge. So maybe you can give some highlights specifically on what were some of the assignments you had to do. What did you start with and what was the end experience?
So it broke down each piece of a 1 minute video that you needed to put together. So the very, very first thing that they talked about was the title. So whenever you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or even Facebook, really what you're trying to do is be entertained. And what the platform's trying to do is keep you entertained as long as possible so that you don't go to another platform or just put the phone down altogether. So the very first thing that we talked about was a title of a video. It had to be impactful, it had to be simple, it had to be short. And usually as you're scrolling through, the very, very first thing that you see is a thumbnail with a title on there. And so they really talked about how to make that title, not so much the thumbnail, but how to make that title impactful and attention grabbing. Once it catches your attention, you have maybe 3 seconds at most, but really you have a split second to say something on the video that's going to hook the people in. That hook is what everybody calls it. And that hook needs to be something controversial, something thought-provoking, something that catches your interest and makes you want to watch 2 or 3 more seconds of the video. Once you get past that shock value hook, then really you present what the rest of that 1 minute is going to be, either in a way that is a question or a problem that you're going to solve, or in a way that kind of tugs at your heartstrings or just gets you curious altogether. Once you do that, you go into this explanation or solution to the problem. Little by little, you're giving information to the person to keep them engaged. And as you wrap up your video at the very, very end, usually what ends up happening is you have an outro with a call to action. And what that is intended to do is create engagement. You want people to hit the like button. You want people to comment. You want people to share. The algorithms out there throw it out to a little bit of people. And based on how much time they spent watching your video and how much engagement your video has, the algorithm will push it out to more and more people that are kind of in the same age, in the same business, or in the same interest. And the more and more people watch the length of your video and the more they interact with it, really the platforms will just keep pushing it out and pushing it out. And eventually, that's what we call going viral, when the platform uses its algorithm to push it out to the masses. And, you've had a couple of viral videos. I think your brother had a story that went viral as well. And what this challenge did is really broke it down line by line, what you need to do in order to have something that's simple, have something that's relatable, have something that's impactful, and that'll help you really reach that virality. Now, it's a little bit of science. It's a little bit of art. And, you can't say, okay, 100% you're going to go viral if you do this, 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 and this. And interests are constantly changing. So that's another thing that as we're going through these challenges, it seems like they're just on the cutting edge, and they're throwing little things into each challenge that really seem relevant right now. And I really like the way that Nas does it. He has a great platform, and I encourage anybody to either go and take part in these free challenges. They were 10 days. I think they're 5 days now. Or to spend, I think it's $79 for a 21-day challenge. I think that if you're thinking about creating content for a living, or even, working in a digital platform a little bit, in order to build your brand or grow your business, I think that these challenges are you get so much bang for your buck. They're great. They're great.
Yeah, I wanted to put this in perspective a little bit. The reason we're talking about script writing is that due to so much content being out there, these companies and organizations need people to create these guidelines, if you will, of what's going to happen on camera. It's very similar to what's been done in Hollywood for a number of years. There were these script writers, these writers of TV shows and programs and movies. It was very niche. It was a very, very small community of people. But thanks to the advent of technology, everybody's got a smartphone nowadays. Everybody's creating content. And for the vast majority of people who are really hobbyists, sometimes they'll just create like these meme type of content, or like these voiceovers using voices of others. When it comes to actually producing content that can really drive you to earn online income, that's where you really need to get serious about how you approach creating content. And one of the core pillars, if you will, of how to create good content is by having a well-written script. Now, your style may be off the cuff, that sounds unscripted, but in order to be truly impactful, I think to your point, Danny, about this short form, what's happening right now with short form content, every single word counts. And so if you've got the first 3 seconds to capture an audience, you can't have an unnecessary pause. Can you say it more simply? An economy of words, if you will. And so by going through this activity of being a script writer, you're able to refine your overall message, and doing it over and over and over again is going to allow you to enhance your script writing abilities, creating better videos. And that's what companies are interested in hiring. These jobs didn't really exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago, unheard of. Whereas now, if you look online, content creators that are script writers, there's a ton of jobs. Where do you get that experience? Well, you can do it for yourself, creating your own content, or you can participate in these challenges held by companies like Nas Company that use them as their key recruiting tool. They're not going to accept your resume and do a traditional interview. They want you to show up, do your best, and showcase that you have what it takes to become a script writer in their mold. And if you win the challenge, you can win a job. So I think that's really the key notion here is script writing is just one way to earn income online, but it's a foundational piece to content. And content, as we know, is one of the key vehicles to have a personal brand online and so forth. And so I think we can talk about other angles as well, Danny, because you're also enrolled in a program that's considered more traditional, a bachelor's program. I forget the name of your program that you're doing. So can you maybe fill us in and let the audience?
Yeah. So I'm an Uber driver. I've been doing Uber part-time for years. And one of the cool things that Uber has is a partnership with Arizona State University where they cover your entire tuition, right? I have a master's degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting and marketing, very traditional. And I think that as my years in that field progressed, the more and more that I noticed that the skills that I learned were becoming more and more antiquated. So what I really wanted to do when I had this opportunity, and Uber doesn't set the bar very high. You need 2,000 lifetime rides and to be gold status, which is just above blue status, which is the very, very lowest tier. So anybody that has experience with Uber has this opportunity for themselves, for their wife, for their kids. Great opportunity, great company to drive for. So ASU, what I'm studying now is digital audiences. And I just applied for another degree so I can be pursuing them both at the same time for technical communications with an emphasis on social media management. So just to give you an example, we're coming up here on the spring semester 2025, and some of the classes that I'm taking is social media foundations, introduction to e-commerce marketing with Shopify, digital audiences, mass communication, and then the last one, customer acquisition with Google and Instagram, right? And I think comparing it to Nas, I think that this is a lot more traditional. And just because of the nature of the way universities are structured, a lot of the things that I'm learning seem to be a few steps behind what the Nas challenges have been doing. I think that because this company, Nas, has been really at the forefront of first that short content, videos of 1 minute or less. And then now with the Nas Academy teaching creators how to build their online presence, how to be better marketers. I think they really have things that are really, really cutting edge. So I think that you get a lot of benefit from both of them. From the Nas side of things, I have gotten a wealth of information that I can apply right now. I think that with ASU, with Arizona State University, the biggest thing over there is that I'm building credibility. When people look at my resume, when people look at my LinkedIn profile, I am not in my 20s anymore putting these cool little videos of me dancing. That's not where I'm going to gain a following or be able to grow my career. But when people look at my resume with my education and my background, I think it adds to that level of credibility, right? When people are out there thinking about content creators or influencers, they're not thinking people our age, right? But I want to be able to change that a little bit. With this podcast, with the content that we're creating, that anybody could go out there and get this education, these bursts of education with like Nas.io, or look for opportunities, right? Uber's paying something like $10,000 per semester for me to go back to school. And these opportunities are out there. So A lot of the people out there that I want to talk to are in middle age or even beyond that. And I want to make sure that they understand that there is so much value to continuing to gain more knowledge and to refine their craft. And one of the ways to grow their income, expand their earning potential is content creation and being more engaged digitally. You have very similar education, and you work for big name companies, and you came to the realization one day that your happiness was more important than maybe that extra zero at the end of your paycheck, right? And the longer and longer that you stay in this realm, right, the more and more you learn how to make bigger paychecks, more income. And really, I look at the way that you live life out there in Latin America, and bro, you're living the dream, man. You're living the dream,
Well, I can say this is that, there's a lot of ways you can make money, and people that are very established in their careers, we're talking like directors and above, senior directors, VPs, senior VPs, the upper brass of corporate America, they make a lot of money. There's a lot of incentives there. There's bonuses, there's equity, there's just the large salary, there's company cars, there's a lot of benefits, if you will, a lot of frills. But at the end of the day, your job, you have to recognize, is not guaranteed, right? You could be displaced because of
yeah, and we've both experienced that, right? You got laid off, I got laid off.
Exactly. Yeah. Mergers and acquisitions, they've always existed. They kind of shuffle things. But what happens is that there's this ageism consideration that I think many young people don't really even think about. Once you hit your 40s, things change significantly. And a lot of people have responsibilities, they have obligations, whether it's children, financial constraints, et cetera. So not everybody can just pivot on a dime. But I think the message here today is you need to get your head out of the sand and really look at the tea leaves and read what's going on and understand that, look, the world's changing at a very rapid clip. That's nothing new. But artificial intelligence is upon us. So companies in many ways are able to displace workers or have this natural attrition, which means that people that are equipped with AI, they can do the work of 2 or 3 people. So they don't have to rehire. They don't have to backfill the role that you left because maybe you left to a different organization. And so by building the skills while you're employed would be my number one suggestion, right? Don't wait until you're unemployed to pivot. Start focusing on what you can do now. Take a course on LinkedIn. Understand that LinkedIn, as we've talked about in prior episodes, it's not just your digital resume. No, LinkedIn is its bona fide social media platform that you can do video content on, you can network, you can message recruiters directly, etc. And so there's just so many things you can learn that if you don't roll up your sleeves and dive in yourself, you're not going to learn. So I think that's really the key message here is to take action and come up to speed with your knowledge.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is only like one small piece of the puzzle, right? But let me ask you this. Where else can you network with the who's who of business? Where else can you have a network where you can catch the attention of decision makers worldwide? Right? LinkedIn is one of those platforms that people dismiss altogether. And it's really only a small part of what we're talking about here and how you can make money. We have a person, Mika, that helps us with our video editing, very proficient, very professional. And she is younger than us. And I want to talk to the younger people as well. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to make money online. And you already touched on Canva, but I think that there's AI creation tools out there for thumbnails, for videos, for all these other things that people are really noticing, and they're becoming more and more relevant in not just the digital career, but also in your 9-to-5 type jobs out there. You have all these social media platforms. You have ChatGPT. What else could somebody, let's say, in their early stages of the career, do to earn an income? I know that Fiverr is another real big one. What's your experience with that, and what do you think?
Well, I think it's about finding your interest in the sense of First of all, where are you spending your time? Which platform
Hmm.
specifically? Are you more of a LinkedIn person? Are you more of a Twitter X person, Instagram, YouTube, you name it?
Hmm.
But it comes down to not only being entertained when you're scrolling, but really look at it as an opportunity to find content that can educate you as well.
Hmm.
And you'll be surprised at how video editors share a lot of information for free just on TikTok. How to
Yeah.
do a particular effect with CapCut using the free version of CapCut.
Yeah.
No one becomes an impressive editor overnight. Everyone starts at ground zero, and you've got to earn your stripes to become a video editor. Now, a lot of people may not want to be an editor because it is a very technical role. That the
Yeah.
type of mindset that it requires,
And it is
it's
so
for specific
lonely. It is
people.
so lonely to edit videos.
Right.
Yeah.
So for some people, that's just not a profession, but for other people, they really like the opportunity. They like the ability to be autonomous,
Yeah.
right? Like I'll be in my room, slip a pizza under the box, and I'll edit 10 videos, and I'm done. I'm on my way,
Yeah.
right? So it's about finding that. But the way you're going to do that is by just following creators, following people that are sharing free value, and start picking up those skills.
Yeah.
Whether it's ghostwriting, whether it's being an on-camera talent, whether it's UGC as we talked about in the last episode. There really is so many different ways to do it, and these are things that honestly you can learn in your free time. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I really believe in today's society, you might be working a 9 to 5, but everybody's got their phone right next to them. They're browsing, they're scrolling right on the job. I mean, I don't think the expectation is that you have to lock up your cell phone or mobile phone and come back to it at the end of your shift. No,
Right.
it's in real life right now. So there's really no excuse, I think, to learn. It's just a matter of like identifying what interests you and
Yeah.
pursue that knowledge path.
If you're passionate about something, you're going to do so much better at it, and you're going to be able to leverage that to make money. Gary Vee talks about it doesn't matter what you do, but if you're passionate about it, you'll be able to make a living from it. And I want to go back to something that you touched base on, especially if we're talking to people that are in their late teens, early 20s, and not too far beyond that. There are so many tools out there that are absolutely free, right? If you have disposable income and you could afford, the Adobe platforms or some of the more expensive, even not so expensive softwares and apps, then great, right? But CapCut is a robust platform that you can use absolutely free. There's some cool little things that you can do with the paid version, but you can put out professional grade videos just using the free version. And I think that's where I started. There's tons of people that do that on their phone. Who was the first? Who was the girl? Kaz, right? One of the
Sandra?
challenge master. Yeah, Cassandra. And she taught this whole challenge off of her phone, and she goes,
Mm.
all my video editing I do right off my phone. So you don't even need you don't even need a regular computer to do that. And then Canva, that one's a pretty robust one too. You can do a lot of things on Canva that could make you money, right? You could business cards, you could do brochures, you can do banners, you can do all these things on
Thumbnails.
there. Yeah, thumbnails, and people will pay you. People will
Yes.
pay you to do these things. And again, going back to Fiverr, there is jobs for just about everything out there. If you want to say that you will edit videos for people that they can put on their social media, people will pay you to do that.
And,
If
and let
you,
me just give you an
yeah,
example. It's like you don't have to be even that experienced with the tool to be able to make money. So when
hmm
you're a freelancer on Fiverr, you create what are called gigs, these services you offer on any topic you can name it. But in the case of UGC, I was doing UGC content. So I would create a UGC gig to create car-based videos. And so you create your intro video, you have a description of your gig, you have your packages, A, B, and C, with C being the most premium package, the most expensive package.
hmm
But then you also can have photos that support your gig so that a prospective buyer can learn more about you, your look and feel, etc. My first time for Fiverr, I had never used Canva. And so I decided to pay somebody to create some images for me. And now looking back in hindsight, those images were so poor in design, but he was more advanced than I was, and I paid him to do it.
yeah.
Now that I've become much more of an expert in Canva, I'm still not where I want to be, but I mean, now I'm creating these full-fledged proposals for clients using Canva understanding the bells and whistles, I know that I could create a gig on Fiverr just doing Canva-based presentations, for example. So these are things that you can really learn in a very short period of time.
Right, right.
Going back to the Nas challenge, one of the challenges they have is to become a designer, where you're creating proposals, where you're creating these different presentations, where you're creating thumbnails, you're creating not only the thumbnails, but also just overall images that you incorporate into videos and so forth. So the limits are endless. And I think as a result, that's really what we're here to do, is to inspire our audience, whether you're young, fresh out of high school, in college, looking to make additional income. It's just about picking something that interests you, learning, and finding the right platform to sell your services.
Yeah. And you stopped right now when you were talking at college, right? But there's people out there that dismiss what we're talking about altogether, that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And they have so much value that they can bring to their career, they could bring to people. And I think that a lot of people in that age don't even realize, but when you're younger, you don't know what you want to do when you're online, when you're in the real world, right? You don't know. But when you're in your 30s, when you're in your 40s, you already have this defined niche that you can just expand on. And I think that that's one of the things that people struggle with when they're younger. And later on in life, now that you've built a career, that you've built a life, you have these niche aspects of your career and life that are very, very well defined. And whether you think that people are interested or not, there's people out there that will engage with just about anything. And the more niche that you are, the more unique you are, and the more difficult it is to find somebody just like you. I think that that's one of the things that I want to throw out there. If you're in your 40s and 50s, you have a wealth of information that somebody in their 20s and even 30s do not. So I encourage anybody to learn. And, Nas is a great way to do it. University, Arizona State University is another one that I'm doing. But what are other ways that you've done, that you've grown your knowledge, that you've expanded in the things that you do, Antonio?
Well, I would say that, again, going back to UGC, but not only as a UGC creator, these individuals that create content for brands, but in working with clients, I've learned so much directly from working with clients. So meaning understanding their business, understanding their key pain points, and recognizing, like, look, when a company asks me for a UGC video, I'm like, well, let me see your socials. And I can say, well, look, you don't really need one video. You can't expect one video to be the miraculous feature that's going to set your business on fire. You need a content strategy. And what does that mean? It means, what kind of content are you going to be creating over time so that you're having this evergreen content that's going to be very relevant to your audience, having successful pieces of organic content that you or your team makes, for example, running a paid campaign against it. But the only way you're going to gain that experience is working directly with clients and learning. And by learning from them, you can say, hey, well, I'm a UGC creator, but I can also help you manage your social media account. I can also do the posting for you. I can manage your community for you. Or I can be, step it up a notch or two and say, hey, look, I see that you're only on YouTube, but why are you ignoring Instagram? Why are you ignoring Twitter? Why are you ignoring LinkedIn, etc.? So those are the kind of experiences that you're going to get, is just taking that first initial step and be willing to pivot and look at new opportunities that will come your way as a result of being active online.
Yeah. And I run into people all the time that have this mentality of the commercial, right? You spend a ton of money, you spend a ton of time on doing one commercial. You're really guessing to think, you're really guessing when you're putting it together, what's going to resonate with your audience out there. You pay a television company or a radio broadcaster to put it on the air, and then you wait for the phones to ring. That is not how social media works. And really, I don't think that that's how marketing works in this day and age. What you're talking about, content strategy, is constantly leading with content. Video is great, right? But there's some people that do that cascading post that you did was great as well. There's some people that really put out just images that are educational, but really consistency is the key. If you are doing one video and you think that you're going to catch people's attention by posting it over and over and over again, you don't have the right concept of how this thing works. What people want is to be entertained. What people want is to be able to watch somebody and learn from them, or be moved by the content that they're doing. If you can capture people's attention long enough for them to hit the like button or share, really, you're building your brand. And somebody that is willing to watch your videos day in and day out, they're worth a heck of a lot more than somebody that watches a commercial and calls you up for that business. Because the first person is going to just be using the platform and leveraging the algorithm to push your message, your information further and further out into the web. And if you do that consistently, you can build a massive following. Not just a massive following, but when people have you top of mind when it is time to, go to the dentist or sell a house or, have some high-end portrait photography done, you're going to be the go-to person, not just for that one person, but to the people that surround them, and the people that they engage with, not only online, but in, regular real life, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I think technology has leveled the playing field. And so, you can't really use your age as an excuse saying, well, hey, in my day, we didn't do that. I mean, the reality is that if you're not doing it, someone else is doing it better than you. And so it's time to level up. And I think that's really the message here, is because, time doesn't stand still for anyone. You've got to get in the game, and you got to play the game if you want to be competitive. You're going to stand off to the side and say, well, I'm going to do things the way I've always done it. It's worked for me. There's no guarantee that's going to be sufficient down the road. And as a result, these things that we're learning, we're talking about script writing, UGC, content strategy. This is not rocket science. This just takes a little bit of application, using a little bit of your gray matter, if you will, and applying yourself and recognizing that, hey, not only is this job rewarding, but in many instances, you can do these jobs remotely. And when you're in the cutting edge of technology, you've already started to separate yourself from the pack.
Yeah.
And so therefore, jobs and opportunities are going to come your way, whether it's through referrals and word of mouth, or because you're knocking on doors. When you have yourself more equipped with these relevant and trending skills and knowledge, you're going to be in demand.
Yeah. And for every age group, that means something different. I think that when you think about people in their teens, in their 20s, you're talking about people that are very, very creative because they grew up with this type of social media presence. They're going to be very tech savvy. These are people that have had cell phones, smartphones their whole life, computers their whole life, tablets their whole life. And the way that they work with them is so much more intuitive than somebody in their 50s and 60s, right? But they really need to focus on skill building, things that are going to translate into, really having an income long term. And I think people in their 30s, maybe early 40s, they have the flexibility that steady income brings. That means that they can really afford the Shure microphone and the Sony podcast camera, right? And I think that they need to focus on diversifying their career, not just expecting to go to work 9 to 5 and then being able to cash a check on the 1st and 15th. I think that once you get past that age group, maybe people in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s, what you have there is a group that has deep understanding of their industry. They have a wide professional network, which really translates into credibility. And those people, right, could really monetize those skills by either being consultants, content creators, coaches, right? The niche that they're in, I'll go back to that, is very, very well defined. And there's people that will pay for that type of tailored, specific coaching and experience. I think that for every age group, there's opportunity there.
I wanted to say that I think the notion of these transferable skills is really important. So when you become a quote unquote content creator, you're not shedding all of your prior experience and locking it up in a box to never look at ever again. No, it's about understanding how certain skills are very transferable. Managing projects for supply chain might sound very specific, and certainly there's components of managing a supply chain project, right? The specific terminology, the equipment used, where the services are being provided. But project management, if you really boil it down, is making sure this project happens on time, ideally under budget. You're delivering a particular project. And so then think about it. We're going to do a video production. It's a similar kind of project, right? The output is, instead of being this container that's getting shipped from Singapore to LA, no, it's going to be a video that gets produced in this particular studio. It's going to go on this particular platform, but the mechanics behind producing a video is very similar to what the project was in the supply chain example here. So by focusing on transferable skills, it's just better like retooling and upskilling versus going back to school and becoming a masseuse if previously you were an engineer. We're not saying it's that drastic of a change.
Right.
It's drawing upon your skills as well as your interests, right? We're not trying to say, let's stick you as a square peg through a round hole. No, it's like, look, if we boil off things that are maybe a little bit antiquated, dust those things off, and we really distill what is your core asset, what is your core knowledge, etc., then how can you apply that in a digital space, in a digital capacity? I think that's really where the value of particularly people that are career transitioners, 40 and above, or those facing ageism can really find value and shine in interviews, etc. And I think for the younger crowd, I mean, this is a great thing that Gary Vee likes to talk about, is like, look, you have time on your side. Give yourself an opportunity to try something. Try a gig for 2 years. You don't like it? Guess what? You can always change, and you still have a very long runway in your career. It's not going to be a career-defining error if you decide to become a video editor and realize 2 years in, you know what? I don't like it. I want to do something else. Pivot.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to pivot.
Yeah. And that's what this whole podcast really is about. How do you pivot from a regular traditional role in your career to multiplying your income streams, to really staying in front of the curve? I hate to see people out there that might be watching the podcast and dismissing it, a lot of the ideas that we're talking about, for them to be in the position that we were in our 40s, when the jobs that we thought were secure, all of a sudden we're not. And I know that you had very little time, very little warning when you were laid off. I know that I had about 6 months, 3 months worth of time where people had been talking about that my role at the company was no longer needed. So I had a little bit more of a transition time. But again, I'm sitting in my mid 40s, really not knowing what I'm going to do next, right? Because I want to be happy. I want to be able to be the chaperone at my daughter's, trip to the children's museum, right? I want to be able to be involved with my friends and my family, and not have to have that cell phone with me 24/7 in case, I need to put out a fire, or be in an office, 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and not be able to participate in my daughter's school activities. I think that there's going to be people out there that might dismiss this altogether and be in that position where they don't know what their next step is. And God forbid that they have that mortgage that is due in 2 or 3 weeks, man. I encourage everybody out there to really put some thought into what we're talking about, and maybe just take the first few steps, man. Take the first few steps to seeing how you can, move a little bit further away from, brick and mortar income to this digital platforms that we're talking about in this content creation. Yeah.
Yeah, there really is so much opportunity out there. And I think that when people do lose their job, it can be very impactful. It can really set you back emotionally. It can really scare you, if you will, because people grow accustomed to a certain lifestyle. They want to be able to provide for their family, want to be able to continue to have those vacations and have the experiences that enrich their lives. But you have to realize that today it's a very competitive world. We're no longer competing with just a person in our general vicinity. It truly is a global competition out there. And there's this trend of a lot of jobs continually being not even outsourced anymore. It's more of like instead of basically moving a job overseas, it's basically finding talent that already exists in a different country who does the same work, if not better quality, for a lower price. And that's really incentive to the organization that's hiring and saying, hey, why are we going to continue to pay Juan $60,000 for this role he's been doing for the past 10 years when I could pay Juan in the Philippines, his counterpart, for $6,000 a year? I mean, there really is no argument as to why are you defending your salary. Now, we can go down a different path and say, well, you know what, in the U.S., we're entitled to certain cost of living, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is it's a different story. I think that's really the message that I would like to share with the audience today. It's like, look, you can go down that path and argue and try to have it your way. But the other way is like upskill and continue to build income that you can do online.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that we're getting close to wrapping it up. What are your closing thoughts? Anything that stands out to you, or any message do you want to send to our listeners out there?
Well, I can tell you this. I'm 2 years into really being a bona fide content creator, where even though before I was like a hobbyist, I would post some photos to Instagram, etc. I had never really made videos. And so if I were literally to flash back to 2 years ago and show that Antonio of 2 years ago, my entire portfolio of personal videos, as well as videos I've done for clients, I would be totally blown away. And so I would say that, to get over this notion of imposter syndrome, just put yourself out there. Put your first video out there, record it, and just put it out there for the world to see. And I think the payout of what that feeling is like once you hit record and you hit publish, and what the kind of reactions you get. Now, you may get some negative feedback, etc., but when you take a balanced look of how you feel putting your voice out there, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that, and I think that if you dismiss it altogether, you might be unpleasantly surprised later on down the road.
There's that risk of, being self-sustainable or depending on someone else for your income.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, great session today. I think that the more that we do this, the better we get at it. And again, anybody out there, practice, man. Lead with content. Put yourself out there, even if you're uncomfortable. And hopefully you'll get better. I think that we are, definitely.
Yes, Danny, great session. Episode 6 in the books at this point. So looking very forward to engaging with our audience. Hopefully in the new year, we can bring on our first guest to enlighten not only ourselves as co-hosts, but also our audience, to bring a new sense of knowledge, talk about key trends to look out and so forth. So looking very forward to our next session, Danny.
Looking forward to it, man. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to anybody out there.
See you guys soon. Take care.
See you guys soon.